The midday sun beat down mercilessly on the sun-baked asphalt of the downtown community park, but inside the shaded perimeter of the children's playground, a heavy, suffocating silence reigned. 32-year-old Jaxson Miller sat on a wooden park bench, his shoulders broad, scarred, and carrying the silent, invisible weight of a dozen years spent as a Navy SEAL team leader. Discharged after taking shrapnel to his shoulder during an extraction mission that nearly cost him everything, Jackson's battlefield now was entirely different, raising his 5-year-old daughter, Maya, as a widower on a modest disability pension. He watched Maya build a lopsided sandcastle, a gentle, protective smile touching his weathered face. Just 20 feet away, parked illegally across the red curb, idly sat a custom, pearl-white Maybach. Out stepped Victoria Sterling, the 50th richest woman in the world, a ruthless, multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical titan whose cold, calculated business maneuvers dominated global headlines. But today, Victoria wasn't thinking about stock markets or corporate hostile takeovers. She was drowning in a private, agonizing grief. Holding tightly to Victoria's hand was her 8-year-old daughter, Claire. Since a devastating traumatic car accident 3 years ago that took the life of Victoria's husband, Claire had completely retreated into herself. She hadn't uttered a single sound, whisper, or syllable. Medical specialists, world-renowned psychologists, and high-priced therapists from Switzerland to Boston had all delivered the exact same soul-crushing verdict: psychogenic mutism. The shock had locked her vocal cords, and they doubted Claire would ever speak again. Victoria had spent millions trying to buy her daughter's voice back, failing at every single turn. Seeking a moment of quiet away from her buzzing security detail, Victoria led Claire toward an empty bench. But Claire's eyes suddenly drifted away from her mother. Across the wood chips, Maya, Jackson's little girl, had accidentally dropped her favorite plastic bucket, sending her carefully built sand fortress tumbling down. Maya let out a soft, heartbreaking sniffle, tears welling up in her wide brown eyes. Without a word, Claire let go of Victoria's hand. Before her mother could even blink, Claire walked slowly across the playground sand toward Maya. She knelt down beside the crying little girl, reached into her own pocket, and pulled out a shiny, pristine silver toy shovel, holding it out silently as an offering. Jaxson noticed immediately. His hypervigilant military instincts, always scanning for potential threats, instantly melted into a warm, gentle softness. He stood up slowly, walking over to the two little girls to make sure everything was all right. He crouched down to eye level with Claire, his movements fluid, calm, and completely unthreatening, the way a seasoned operator approaches a frightened animal. "That's a mighty fine trading piece, Captain," Jaxson said softly, his deep, resonant voice carrying a calm, rhythmic reassurance that instantly eased the tension in the air. He offered Claire a warm, lopsided smile, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "My commanding officer here tells me she lost her castle. Do you think we can negotiate a rebuilding treaty?" Victoria rushed over, her heart hammering against her ribs, terrified that a stranger was interacting with her fragile daughter. She opened her mouth to snap an order, to pull Claire away from the working-class man in faded jeans and a plain t-shirt. "Claire, honey, step away," Victoria started, her voice laced with defensive panic. She never finished the sentence. Claire didn't flinch. Instead, she stared deep into Jackson's calm, weathered eyes that had stared down literal danger and radiated absolute, unshakable safety. For 3 long, agonizing years, Victoria had tried everything to coax a sound from her daughter's lips. Millions of dollars, endless tears, specialized clinics, all met with dead, impenetrable silence. But as Claire looked at the gentle single dad, her lips parted. A tiny, breathy tremor escaped her throat. And then, clear as a bell across the quiet playground, 8-year-old Claire spoke her very first words in over 1,000 days. We can build it higher together." The world stopped spinning. Victoria froze dead in her tracks, her breath catching violently in her chest. Her hands flew to her mouth, and her eyes bulged wide with absolute, staggering disbelief. For a second, she thought she was hallucinating, that her desperate mind was playing cruel tricks on her. She stared down at her daughter, tears instantly flooding her vision. Her mute child, the little girl the best doctors in the world had written off as permanently silent, had just spoken. And she had spoken not to her mother, not to a high-paid doctor, but to a rugged, ordinary single dad. Jaxson blinked, momentarily stunned by the clarity of the child's voice, before a warm, understanding smile broke across his face. He gently patted Claire's small shoulder. "There you go," Jaxson whispered gently, looking up to meet Victoria's tear-filled, shell-shocked gaze across the sand. "Sometimes, all a soldier needs to break the silence, is a safe harbor." As Victoria dropped heavily to her knees in the wood chips, weeping tears of pure, unadulterated joy while pulling her speaking daughter into a crushing embrace, she looked at Jaxson with a profound, life-altering realization. Money could buy empires, build skyscrapers, and hire armies, but it couldn't buy grace. And in that single, unforgettable afternoon at a dusty neighborhood park, a humble Navy SEAL had achieved what $2 billion never could.